Borough Council, Tuesday, November 28th, 2017. Please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Mr. Kennel.
Mr. Bickert?
Here.
Ms. Larabo?
Here.
Mayor Dubrow?
Here.
Mrs. Rubicki Bell?
Here.
Mrs. Provenza?
Here.
Mr. Conti?
Here.
Mrs. Jamelis Worf, he called me earlier in the week. She's not going to be in. She's out of town, I believe. And I'm not sure about Mr. McCarthy. He might come in late.
Thank you. Okay, no registered comments from the public. Any comments from the public on agenda-related items? Please approach the podium, state your name and address, and limit your comments to 3 minutes. Back there. Okay, Mr. Kennel.
Well, I don't have a whole lot. I gave council the preliminary budget last meeting. So I wanted to go over, there's one change that I made in the new version that I put in front of you that's printed even smaller than the last one. There's not a whole lot to change. The one thing that Matt brought up the last meeting that had slipped my mind is that we have liquid fuels money in the Pliget account that we have left over from previous years that's kind of restricted funds. One of the things that we can use that money for is a salt shed. So I had $60,000 in here that was going to go toward the salt shed. I made an adjustment. I added, at the very end of the revenues on the second page, 392030 transfers from capital reserve. There's $60,000 in there. That's coming out of the Pliget account for liquid fuels. So that will go, the salt shed will go toward, we'll be able to use that toward the salt shed. Because of that, that adds $60,000 to our budget. So with that, I took and put the $25,000 that we were talking about for way signs. I put that in there. And then the rest of that balance I added to the paving project that council can decide throughout 2018 if there's other large projects that we want to take from that. So the difference is basically that we added, and that's on page, the adding is on page 6, under 430740, a little over halfway down the page, major expenditures under the streets department.
What was the number here?
430740. So you'll see all the way to the right, so it changed the paving. We have $125,000 earmarked for paving now, and $25,000 for way signs. The $60,000 is still in there for salt shed, but that's offset with that other money, and $50,000 for sewer lining with Diamond Way. The other thing that we talked about with Matt is that $50,000 for Diamond Way. We did apply for a grant. And if we do get that grant, that'll also open up another $50,000 that we can use for paving or other projects or whatever we want to do. Other lining, because we have a lot of sewers to be on. So that's the only change that I've made. And I talked to a couple council members and I talked to the mayor since the last meeting to address some questions. I'm not sure if there's any questions left. If there are, let's hear them.
No, I found what I was looking for. I didn't see it in there, the franchise fees. I must have passed that
Passed over.
Right. Yeah, it's right in front of me here.
I looked it over and I got nothing.
Okay. I looked it over too, Jerry, and my only question is, and it's just nothing to be changed or anything, but the $7,000 that's earmarked for RCAC for the senior citizens, I'm not against that. But I do know that on numerous occasions, Mrs. Worf has brought it to the attention of the fire department for finding out, like, how is the money spent, where does the money go, so on and so forth. And I was wondering if we receive anything from the senior citizen that determines where does the $7,000 go yearly?
We do not.
I think
So,
that's for the bus.
strictly for the bus? But, I mean, I would like to know, is it for tires, is it for brakes, is it for inspection, is it for gas? I mean, how much mileage is it got
Yeah,
given in
I'm not sure
Verona?
if it's a donation, like we just donated 7,000. We've been doing it since I've been here. I don't even know how many years before
It's
that.
been a long
It's
time.
probably at least 8, 9, 10 years.
So I'm not sure if that's a fee that they charge the borough. We do receive an invoice for the
Okay.
7,000, so there might be a fee that they charge us,
Okay.
but I can look into it further.
Would you please? I just would be interested, and, you know, and what brought it to my attention today, because I wasn't even going to really bring it up or anything like that, but we at home received a capital fund drive for Lower Valley Ambulance Service. And I know they've been here, and there was a big hoopla about them asking for more money and so on and so forth. And I mean, I'm thinking to myself, okay, here's an ambulance service that's saving people's lives, and we're bickering over
Understood.
a little bit of money here, donation-wise, for people in the community. And we're given $7,000, and it's my understanding that people who ride that bus pay anyhow. I mean, it's not a free ride, so
Yeah.
they're getting on and they're making, you know, donations there too. So I
I'll
was
find
just,
out what it is exactly.
I'd appreciate that. I'd like to know. And that was my only comment about the budget.
I looked at it as well, and I think it looks really good. Any questions?
So we need a motion.
Motion
So you need a motion to
to advertise.
I'll make a motion to advertise the budget for 2018.
Okay, motion by Mr. Conti, I will second. Are there any other questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jerry.
So
That-
I never understood that budget. Now
But-
I pretty much understand.
And I really appreciate knowing what's going on before, what's happening now, and what's going to happen in the future. Thank you. Okay, anything else?
I don't have anything else.
Okay, Mayor?
Couple things. I don't know if anybody, you may know this, so I don't know if anybody knows Mike Bento had a triple bypass.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, last week.
Heard quadruple, but whatever.
Oh, my.
Yeah, whatever, it might have been.
Kevin Ewing told me today.
Yeah, and he's doing good, and I guess he may be home tomorrow. And it was pretty serious too, from what I said. I mean, not that they aren't serious, but he, I guess, kind of wanted to blow it off. But his wife made him go to the doctor, and doctor should have gave him a nitrogen. Is that what it is?
Nitroglycerin.
Yeah, and sent him right to the hospital, and they did emergency stent, and then Friday he had a major operation. But he's doing good. So I just wanted to pass that along. How's
Coming along. Mark,
Mark?
coming along.
Mark,
Just told him right before him. He stood up today,
good.
took a step, slow,
Takes
but looks
time.
like he's better than it was 2 weeks ago.
We got a lot of street lights out, and I really don't know what to do about them. Apparently Duquesne Light really doesn't really give a darn. The chief says they send them in. It's probably 6 weeks that they've been out. There's 3 going up Center Avenue alone, right in a row, from the boulevard to Heron Avenue on the left-hand side. And there's about 12 of them out.
If you tell me what the streets are, I can talk to Mike and see if he can talk to the guy in charge of those. If you let me know where they are, I'll see if that'll help. I don't know if it'll help or not,
Right.
but I'll talk to him.
Right. Yeah, I'll get you that list. And the other thing is too, is the board going to decide on the curfew whistle? They were here twice, the people asking about it.
What are your thoughts?
On my honest thought, I don't have a problem with it not going off, but I don't know what is involved with turning it off. That would be, if it's decided, we have to find out from the fire chief if it can even be turned off. Because that whistle, I thought was really old. Is it still really old?
Two parts to it. The curfew is newer, the curfew part of it's newer. The whistle for the fire calls is older. I believe, we looked into it, I believe if you decide you want to shut it off, you know, I think you can.
Yeah, because it was off for the longest time, probably in the 80s. So I'm sure there is a way to.
No, this is nuisance ended. The relay and the timer and everything, that's nuisance end. That's
Right.
probably 10 years old.
Are they two separate, Ray? I mean, can we
Same
turn the
whistle.
curfew off and still
Same
have?
whistle,
Okay,
two separate controllers.
okay, so one can be turned off. The
I
curfew-
believe so.
Should we take a vote? We have
Do you
a,
want
we
to
have
turn it
a
off?
Well, I mean, they're gonna probably be, you know, the residents are gonna probably be back for the third time, and it just makes all of us kind of like we're not stepping up the.
It's not like it, that's like some other things that people think it can get done like immediately. There's some things you gotta think about before you do it. And we had enough time, we thought about it.
Are we considering
Maybe.
eliminating the curfew altogether or
No.
turning off the?
Turning off the whistle. There's 9:45, it goes off.
But there,
We're just we're talking about eliminating the whistle, not the curfew. The curfew still stands.
Yeah, because we still have an ordinance on that.
Right. So you have to, yeah, that's what I mean. You have to-
Right, it's just- Right, the ordinance is still in place.
I don't know if you talked to the chief or not about it, but I haven't noticed hardly any
Well, they
kids out.
cited 2 kids so far.
Yeah, I don't know if they're cracking down on it or what the reasoning is, but I don't see a whole lot out anymore. So
It's more difficult to enforce if you don't have a whistle.
What's that?
Does it make it more difficult to enforce it if you don't have the whistle?
Ray,
No, it's an ordinance, like any other ordinance. We don't have a whistle for any other ordinance. That was
Is there a
stupid.
different whistle that we could use that's not as intrusive?
maybe the parents could text their children to come home.
Thanks, I'll send out.
How about when the street? How
Go
about when the
home.
street?
That's right, time to come home.
Yeah, come on.
Ray, I have a question.
Growing up in our day, your old man whistled and you got your ass. Well,
Yeah.
Ray, I have a question. Can we lower it
Nope.
without dropping it completely?
You mean the volume?
Yes. Okay. Just a thought.
So decibels.
Should we vote on it, or do you want to still think about it?
I think the,
I mean, because it's, you know, they're gonna continue to come back, and they're gonna wanna know, we need an answer, you know, why is no one
I'm
answering?
still not a fan of eliminating it for fire calls.
no,
They said,
no,
they said something about everybody has a smartphone now, just use that.
No.
I still don't believe in that.
In respect to what the one gentleman did say, though, that it might go off maybe 2-3 times a month.
He
If
said 2 or 3 times a week.
I thought he said a month, I could be corrected then. You know, for fire calls, it was the quarter to 10 whistle,
Yeah.
7 days a week.
Well, I can tell you this much in regards to the fire whistle itself, or fire calls, it's not getting shut off.
Yeah,
That doesn't even,
I don't agree with that.
that doesn't even,
Can I just say, what I remember from that meeting is he didn't want it shut off, he just wondered if it could be less than 16 times. That's what his
I don't believe that can be done without a lot of expense.
question was.
I don't believe that can be done without a lot of expense.
you want to make a motion to turn off the curfew?
I'll make a motion to turn off the whistle for the curfew only.
A motion by Mr. Conti, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Loalbo, are there any questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
And the last thing I have, I just need a very brief exec on personnel.
Okay. Do we need to come back?
No.
Okay,
You'll turn it off.
You want to?
Should we do something like send out text message or something to let people know that the curfew whistle's not
That
gonna
would,
go
that would
off?
probably be a good idea.
Probably a good
Or else all the
idea,
kids are gonna be out.
But it will still be enforced.
Right,
because there's an ordinance for it.
yeah.
The
We
ordinance will
go
still
back
be
and forth
enforced.
on the actual verbiage you want to send out, and we'll do it a couple
We'll
times.
talk tomorrow.
Okay.
Could that be sent home to the parents through the school maybe, so that every parent knows about it?
It's not a bad idea.
Probably high school.
Yeah.
Even sometimes you see little ones too, but I don't know why.
When do you want me to have it shut off?
If anybody goes to the school board meetings, they could,
Right.
make that a public comment.
If you go push a button tonight, go push a button.
Okay,
I'll figure out a way to get the word out so that people understand that there's still a curfew, there's just no whistle.
okay. I mostly had questions about the 7,000 on budget to RCAC. And the only other question, Dawn, do you know when the leaves will stop being mulched up?
They will keep picking up leaves, from my understanding, until we get the first freeze or snow. Then they have to switch over, and if they have to switch back and forth, it's a lot of work, and
Okay,
it's not worth it. So as soon as we get the first, like, major freeze or snow that needs salted or plowed, then they're gonna switch over, and that will be the end. I
okay.
can't tell you exactly, because you never know when it's gonna be in the 50s all week. So.
And if it doesn't happen, then we could very well have the leaf mulcher on?
Yeah,
Okay.
they'll keep it on as long as they can,
Okay,
as long as weather allows.
all right. Any comments? Your
I do have one, that they are, you might see them with a snow plow on the front of the truck, either the small dump truck or the pickup. One of our new guys is familiar with plowing, the other one not so much. So if they get any free time, they're gonna throw a plow on the truck, and AJ's gonna drive around with them, so he can get used to what it's like driving with a plow on the front of the truck. And more than likely, that guy is gonna be down here, I talked to AJ about that, on the flat below West Railroad. He's gonna take care of that until he gets used to it, and then we'll slowly work him up into the hill, onto the hill if needed. We might not even need him up there, but that's where he's gonna start. He's gonna start down below. So if you see a plow on a truck, that's anytime soon, that's the reason it's on there. And the only other thing I have to say is they're doing an excellent job. I've been getting comments. They're really doing a good job right now. I have no issues with them whatsoever. And that's all I have, because I got no complaints. If I ask them to do something, it's done. Everything's good. That's all I have.
And it's nice to see them all with a smile on their face.
Yeah, they all get along very well.
Mrs. Provenza?
Yes, thank you. We had a meeting yesterday, our ordinance committee, and I have a few reports to give here. 558 Church Street, citation on that. 448 School Street, also a citation. 515 East Railroad, that is in the works right now. 520 Center Avenue, that already I had gone over with you last meeting, that's still boarded up. And .535 East Railroad Avenue, citation on that. And the dog dropping ordinance, that's been done, that's taken care of. And the last one is 314 Arch Street, and that will be cited, I believe, at this time. That is my report.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mrs. Lava?
December 5th is the next recreation, rec meeting here at 7 o'clock. And that's all I have to do. I did receive so far this one application for the Parks and Rec absentee for the young board.
When's the deadline?
The 30th,
The 30th.
which is Thursday.
Okay.
That's all I have, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bicker?
I don't have anything.
Council will now hear comments from the public on public-related items. Please approach the podium, state your name and address, and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
I just wanted to give an update. Curtis Brown, 6708 East Bear Vista, Verona, 147. I wanted to give an update and review about the text marketing we've been doing for the past several months. And here we are as of today. Total opt-ins, which means these are the total number of people who opted into the service. We said, hey, I want to get the text messaging. We're 95 people total. Total opt-outs, there were 5. So for whatever reason, those 5 people changed their mind, did not want the messages to come through the phone. And so now we have a total of 90 subscribers. We send messages to on a regular basis. The messages that went out for the past several months have been 56 in total. So that's since last February, we've sent out 56 messages regarding the information that you've received. Looking at 2018, if and when we move this along, we would look at putting a new sign where all the signs go. We would put a sign there, maybe have it there on a more regular basis, taken out when there are other events coming on, but have it there on a regular basis so individuals coming through the town can put it there. I did speak with George at Giant Eagle. He said we could put up a poster there so that shoppers would know that. We can put one in the post office, and we're just looking for increased neighborhood input. So we can talk about how we get more information to me or to you so more information goes out. I know there's more information that the residents know that I just don't know. So I have the major issues, but I don't have anything else. So we can get maybe a better pipeline in that way. We can have more information going on that's more relevant. That's the key. That's it.
Can I ask you a question? Sure. Now, does that go out to the people? Is that stuff like from the fire department end? Just for instance, let everybody know that the recycle bins over there benefit the fire department. Is that the kind of stuff you put on?
Yeah, we can do that as well. Sure. And that's once again public information. Everyone kind of needs to know, may not know. And if they're signed up, they can get the information. Hopefully, tell the neighbor, hey, I just got this text message. Make sure you go do X, Y, or Z.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions?
Thank you.
Okay.
I need to set up.
Okay.
Seriously, I do.
Sorry.
Curtis, excuse me, out of all those, I just got my first one the other day. I know I've been on it from the beginning, but I finally got one. So I don't know why I didn't get all the other 50 of them, but
Okay.
I'm just saying.
I'll take a look at that.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Dory Tompa, 157 James Street, Verona. Can we post on Facebook this opportunity? I don't think many people know about the texting opportunity. Does anyone see a reason why?
No.
Because I think that would, I think a lot of people would be excited about that. So I wanted to ask if this would be an okay time to talk about my question on the property at 157 James Street. Because and I know Craig's not here, but I approached a few of you last summer about the issue regarding the shed that's in the borough right-of-way. There's a right-of-way of James Street that goes to the end, to the river, basically. I'm on one side, and Chris Davis is on the other side. In 1997, when I moved to the property with my husband, we got a building permit to extend the shed, which is in the right-of-way. So a lot of things, it was approved. It was approved, we got the building permit, we extended the shed, we got use, an approval to use that shed for the rowing club when the rowing club was on the property. So Don was there, Sandy, Craig last summer of 16. So it's taken some time to figure out what's permitted and what's not. And from what I understand of what's permitted, and what I've spoken to, I met with Craig 2 months ago at his office. It is permitted to have a partial vacation, not Hawaii, but a partial vacation, the borough giving up the use of, or the ownership of a right-of-way. So what's happening in that right-of-way right now, there's a building in it. And I remember even a couple of months ago, you can't have a building in a right-of-way. That was a consideration for the salt. So there's one issue that's not right on that right-of-way, not right on the right-of-way. Another one is, we were given a permit to use it. We've been using it, we've been maintaining it. Right now it has a leaky roof, we would like to fix it. It was last year, our insurance agent said, you know, I don't think this is in your property. I said, no, it's not. He said, well, it's really awkward if you're insuring it. Does the borough insure it? What happens if someone's on that property that's, you know, from you and on that property? Or it's a complicated situation to have the borough owning the dock, you know, or owning the property under the shed and the dock that we maintain. Had been given a building permit. Our taxes were actually raised in 1998. When I called, why was it raised? Oh, there was a building permit associated. We didn't do any building. Oh, the shed. So this has been something that I'm hoping we can resolve. Chris Davis wrote a letter. You had all gotten copies of that letter. That Chris Davis will be fined at that triangle section from our edge of our property. And I have copies, but I didn't want to bombard you because I think they were passed out last week or last meeting. So the map of the triangle section, well, I guess a trapezoid, from the edge of our property to the edge of the road, which provides then the access to the shed and use of the shed. So that area could be legally vacated without impacting Chris in any way. She'd given approval in writing of that opportunity, and I would greatly appreciate being able to have the legal ownership of that property.
Did we talk with Craig about that? I can't remember exactly what was said.
And I think Craig needs to have a meeting with all of us, because now the rec board, correct me if I'm wrong, Janet, but the rec board, a few people from the rec board have talked with me about the possibility of that land there being developed.
So underneath that land,
Yeah.
so you may or may not remember, but when the public dock was being considered, that was the original location, right next to where the rowing club was at that time, because it was in our house. And that was the original reason the borough gave permission to allow us to have access, to be able to operate the rowing club from the shed on borough property that we managed from our house. That's a commercial property. It's zoned commercial.
Dave, you were
Anyway.
probably the only one on the board at that back in '97. when this
So
all
it
done.
was a COG grant that, oh gosh, what's his name? Can't remember the fellow's name from the COG. But the
Tom Benecki.
Tom Benecki. So the grant came through the county. We wrote the grant. The borough approved us writing the grant. Our council approved. And when the grant came in, the water rose. There's that big giant water outlet for the storm drain. It's like taller than, well, it's big. So having something down there, unless you're familiar with using it, is not a great idea. So that's when the borough, Bonnie and a few others helped me locate the right-of-way where the current public docks. So all the money was moved down to that dock. And it seemed to be a better solution. So right now there's the park, that's the Riverbank Park. There's the Verona public docks that are available to people. This shed, which we were given the opportunity and granted the permission to have a building permit, and we've been paying taxes on that shed. I'm asking, it's been 19, 20 years, if from our property to the edge of the road, from the edge of the road moving forward, it's still 40 feet. It's like about 12 feet that I'm asking where that shed is on. And actually 3 feet of it is about on our property, and the remainder is on the borough property.
Sandy, I think the issue is that there's that area down by the river, the only access would be through there.
Mhm.
So if we did that, we would potentially lose access to that land.
Right. And that's a concern for people.
Yeah.
It's a big concern.
How long were you given permission on that property? How many, was it 2 years, 5 years?
In 1997.
Okay.
She got a permit to build a building.
you've been using it all that time?
Yes,
Okay. Well, if you're using it, then it would make sense to pay the taxes on it.
yes,
And now you have your building down further.
yeah,
So
for the
you
road.
don't really need that property, that building, right? Because you've got that big complex down there, down at the end of Orange Street.
For the rowing club, yes.
Right.
But we personally have maintained it and taken care of that shed and kept the docks. We personally built them. So we are asking the borough to
But
consider.
wait, you've used those,
Yeah,
you've used the shed.
yes.
So it's only right that you would pay the taxes on it.
And we were happy to.
Aren't you actually going to sell your property and you're moving? You've already bought property somewhere?
We have 2 other properties. If we buy another property, we may or may not sell this property. I don't plan to sell this property. My mom lives next door. I want to stay at this property. But I would like to be able to have the opportunity to own that stretch of the trapezoid of land.
What do you want to do with it? Do you mind if I ask?
Nothing different than what we have been doing.
Because right now you're doing nothing with it, right? Because everything is down at the edge of Orange Street, if I would be correct.
So I would encourage you, so my mom moved 18 months ago from Florida. Most of her furniture and boxes in that shed. We own some personal boats that are in that shed. We've been using it as if it's our shed. The rowing club moved in 2010 when the structure was built down at the end. So we've been continuing to use that shed. We've been maintaining it. We take care of it. We had it painted. We re-sided it. We put a new roof on. So we've been taking care of this structure.
So now you're using it for storage.
And access to the river, we have 3 rowing boats personally, one for my son, my husband, myself, and we have a 2-person boat.
I'm not against it, but I would rather Craig be here because there were 3 or 4 different things that we talked about with Craig, and I cannot for the life of me remember what the last thing we talked about was. I would rather Craig be with us.
Sure.
If it has to be sooner than our next meeting, that's fine.
No. I'm happy to discuss this, but I would greatly appreciate everyone trying to understand the situation. I've been trying to get everyone to understand that we've been first we used it for the rowing club. It's no longer the rowing club, but we use it. And it is, we maintained the property up to the edge of the road. We needed access up to the edge of the road because the boats really took up a lot of space when they were there. But we've continued maintaining it. We put a little stone wall, because when people go down to the end by accident, they used to turn around in the grass. So we landscape it to the edge. So having the structure as part of our property and up to the road would give us the maneuvering room to use that building as we use it. And like I said, it became an insurance and liability question from my insurance agent. And we have people coming to visit us, and they come to visit us and use that building on borough property. I think you would be concerned about that. Back 20 years ago, it wasn't, these things weren't really considered. They just weren't. How do you get it done? And so now here we are in the situation where this is what happened 20 years ago. We've been maintaining it and paying taxes, and I greatly appreciate the consideration of vacation because you can do a portion. I reviewed it with Craig. Any length or width could be considered to be vacated. The road could remain as part of the street.
Now, what's going to happen with the rest of it? If we only give you a portion of it that's vacated, what happens to the rest?
It's the right-of-way. It's still the borough's right-of-way.
Oh, the vacated part.
No, you should check with Craig, but that was my understanding talking with Craig.
Okay, but if we were to give you that portion that you want, we still need a right-of-way through there for the sewer line.
Right? Well, that's
Is that
actually...
on your property?
No, that's
that
in
we
the
would
right
give
of way.
you?
No, that would still be under the street.
Outside of
Mhm.
it. Because one of the issues that I would have is if we would give that up and then a bunch of buildings get put up in there, then we're going to have a problem if we ever have any issues with that that sewer line going through there, then it's gonna be a big issue.
It's a 10-foot swath. There's not a building that's going to go up in that
Okay.
section. We would like to re-roof and put a peak so that it's not flat, because that flat roof is water, I mean, it's a problem. We have water coming in the middle, but we don't want to do anything until we get knowledge of this. I'd rather it be, you know, if you're not going to consider this, and we're not going to have ownership of it, I think we need to take, I don't know what to do. I would
Jerry, is
just-
there any way that we could have a meeting, council with Craig? I'd like Bob Steinhouse to be there as well. Because I'm just not comfortable giving up borough property, okay? I mean, it belongs to all of us. And, you know, it was done in 97. None of us, David, you were probably the only one here in 97. None of us were on the board. I never would have went along with that in 97.
Well,
So,
we have never maintained that in 20 years.
But before that, because the
Even
fellow who we
before
bought
that.
it from, he said the borough abandoned it.
Right.
And he fixed the roof,
Right.
it caved in.
And I do remember the gentleman, he put
Bill-
pylon, I can't remember his
Yeah,
name.
he built
He
the
was
original
a single guy,
docks.
right?
Mhm.
I do
Bill
remember him.
Sherrick.
What was his name?
Bill Sherrick.
And
it too.
we've never maintained it, we never plowed it, we never cut grass on it. Both Christine and Bill at the time and you maintained that property.
That's another question that was brought up. Where those cars are being parked,
Then
that's
she,
basically on our right of way.
exactly, but we don't say nothing because it's a business. We don't maintain the property, we don't use it.
Right, but we're still responsible for it if somebody would get hurt, slip and fall, because we don't maintain it, that's gonna be an issue. That's one of the things I want to find out.
I don't see the big deal. It's a useless piece of property. You can't build over it. If they're both willing to assume the and this is my opinion, they're both willing to assume the responsibility, vacate the property. To me, it's real simple. Have the attorney put in there that the borough has the right of way at any time to go in there and dig it up if we have a sewer problem or whatever. We should be maintaining it then. Get the street guys down there to cut the grass and plow that road.
I'm not going for an argument on that. I'm saying what has been done since 1997, not since when I got on council. It's been done like that forever. Is that still getting us in a jackpot because we're not doing that? I want to make sure we're free and clear of anything that's going on.
Actually, it's 20 years. We haven't maintained the property. She
More than
has,
20.
right, and so has Christine
No, if
Davis
we
now.
vacate-
So it's
If we vacate
theirs.
the portion that you want, is Christine Davis going to take over the other portion, or is
So,
she not? Are we going to be
Christine Davis
responsible?
made it very clear that she is not comfortable with vacating the road, the paved, let's call it the paved portion. And so that was very clear in her correspondence. But she made it very clear in the most recent correspondence, because once I learned with Craig that you could do a portion, any length, any width. I presented it to Chris, okay, if you don't want to vacate the paved portion, how about just the portion where the building is, up to the paved portion of the road? And she said, oh, that makes perfect sense because of what happened prior with the council prior and my interest to keep the right-of-way intact as the road, the paved road. And that's what she said in the letter. So she was in agreement to vacating the trapezoid shape that included the building up to the paved portion of the street.
You know, years ago, we had a similar situation where we lost in court, and it cost the borough thousands, of Bluff Way behind Katrina's funeral home. The people took care of it, they claimed it, we didn't do nothing. The borough fought it as a right-of-way, and we lost.
but behind that shed, okay, there is land on there that could be made into a park, that
Yeah.
would be connected into
Most of the
Oakmont.
time it's off, riverfront, I see where that's going. It is if it were raised. You would have to build a raised platform.
Okay,
Because even the,
but if we give this up, then we would have no access to that land.
There's
No.
a beach
No.
shore, a
You
shore
can-
of
you could,
15 foot, if that.
from the
I
edge
used to
of the
fish
street.
there.
So from the edge of the street, the paved portion, you could go straight out. It would be built up, but that's what we did. We built ours up to be able to go out. Ours is not like, you can't just walk down a nice little path. It's built up because of the change in elevation. So you could just do the same thing. But I will mention that that's mostly underwater. We had to
Yeah.
seriously raise up our walkway. So in that whole portion between what is that called, Indian Creek? And all the way up into basically where Oakmont, the yacht club is wetland. And you can't really build a lot there. But it would have to be raised up platform, at least I would say by 8 to 10 feet to be out of the flood zone regularly. It would be a challenge, not unmanageable, because there is that riparian way that could be used, but and there is a right-of-way starting from the rowing club property, the storage property, and we've been working with Russ Peterson forever, right, on the railroad. But there are right-of-ways, but the discussion with the Friends of the Riverfront way back was that from the boathouse into Oakmont, it would follow into the roads, because owners had, all of the owners from Rob Roy down and Bunting owned to the riverfront, owned to the riparian way, and the riparian way is in a serious flood zone, serious. So that's why the discussion, and I don't know if you've been on the Allegheny Passage, but often it's on the river, and then sometimes it goes into the towns because of the challenging riverbank topography. So it was not a discussion, it wasn't even a discussion. So the person who was the director then was no longer at the Friends of the Riverfront, but at that time when we discussed, well, how we're going to get to Oakmont, I said, oh, this is a perfect spot to get us to go through the towns. So that would be a consideration because of how low that area is.
Well, I think if we have a meeting with Craig, let's talk it all out.
I
have an answer for.
I would feel a lot more comfortable with all of us together, rather than you talking to Craig, and then you come in and talk to us, and then Craig talks to us, but we're not all together. Everything
totally
is
agree.
piecemeal. So I think we need to all get together.
I totally agree, and
Bob
I'm
needs to
sad
be
that
there.
a few weren't here, but that's happens.
Will you call Craig and
Yeah,
find
I'll
out?
call him. I'll call him tomorrow.
All right, thanks.
And next meeting, I mean, it's been a year and a half.
If it's the whole board, it's the whole board. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
We should.
So I
I just
think
wanna
we
make
just
sure we're
all
all.
need to be on the same page, and we're not
Sure.
on the same page.
And that's okay. It's a confusing situation. I understand that it's not, it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable for me to talk about it, but it's been, it would mean a great deal to be able to capture that 10-foot slice, to be able to grab the building and the property leading up to it, so that we just can work with it like it's our property.
I'm going to also suggest, if you do make this meeting, everybody needs to go down and look at it and possibly discuss it down there.
I'll take it.
Because,
You want to meet there?
that's what I'm saying. I mean, I know exactly what you're talking about, what you're talking about, the elevation. I used to do a lot of fishing down there when I was a kid. Everybody did. And I think you need to visualize what it is. To me, my opinion, it's a useless piece of property. You're only asking for 10 feet of it. And they could be stipulated with a right-of-way if the borough has to go in there and dig up.
Yeah, yes.
But you need to visualize it and say, wow, is that what you're talking about? And I think a lot of you will, say that once you see that.
We're gonna see.
I did walk it with Jerry and Craig not too long ago, when you first brought it to everybody's attention, so that everybody needs to be, because we're committed to something that was decided in 1997 by a whole another group of
Once
people.
Jerry gets a hold of Craig and we get something set up, somebody will get a hold of you and let you know
Okay.
when that will be.
It can just be the next council meeting. I'm, if everyone, but you want to make sure everyone's here.
I think it needs to be done before the council meeting, so we have time to think about it, talk about it, and digest it.
Yep.
Do you want me to do it at the house? I'm a little confused,
Let me call
sorry.
Craig and then we'll figure out, we might.
Yeah,
It has to be an open meeting.
But we have to,
it's gonna have to be a public meeting because we're all gonna be there, so I don't know if everybody's gonna wanna walk down there. or if we-
Oh, I see. I can bring pictures.
I think we need to physically see it.
You could physically see it and then meet here, so that it's not, you could come in groups. I'd be happy to accommodate whatever makes sense.
Okay.
I'll talk to Craig, we'll figure something out.
Okay, thank you. And
Yeah,
I'm
thank
sorry I went over 3 minutes, but it's a confusing situation.
3, you're on 33.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Sorry.
Okay. Can I have a motion for adjournment?
To do exactly.
To accept, and we don't have to return. Motion by Mrs. Provenza, second by Mr. Conti. Any questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Exact. Bye. You had 2 opportunities to talk.